So if I was starting over right now, and I'm young, I'm in my 20s, I would learn a trade. I would learn how to do plumbing, electric, water damage restoration, or appliance repair. These type of trades are in demand. There's a big lack of professionalism in these fields. And in addition to that, AI is not going to replace you anytime soon. At least that's what I think, based upon these skill sets. If you're paying someone to come out to fix your thermostat on your AC unit, you don't have to worry about a robot taking your job, right? That's a very human to human interaction that is needed to do those types of jobs. And depending where you live, there's large profits to be made. If you live in a state like I'm in California during summer at its peak heat, there's tons of business for AC companies. If you live in states like Arizona, or if you live in Nevada where heat is just immense in summertime, there's again a big demand for people to pay for someone to come fix their air conditioning units. And these are very skilled labor jobs. They're such an underrated field because you can literally make hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a day doing this. Even if you work for someone, you can still make great income. If you're going to work for a company, try to work for a company that pays really good hourly, or maybe a company that will even pay you percentage based. You get a small percentage of a job sold if you're doing it, because again, there's large amounts of income to be made there. So these are great fields to make great profits in. So if I was going to scale this type of business, this is what I would do. I would first learn the trade. I would take, 2-3 years to learn the trade really well. I'd work for someone, learn all the skills that I need. And by year 5, what I would do is I would start my own company. By the 5th year, you should have all the skills needed to do the job yourself. You go out on the field and you do the jobs yourself, and now you make the money directly. You can open up, a corporation, an LLC. Depending what state you're in, it's not that hard to do. And you have customers pay you directly. Start by making yourself a Google listing, a Yelp listing, a Nextdoor, whatever forms of marketing are popular in your area. Maybe even a Facebook market page page. Facebook market page. Yeah, a Facebook market page. Facebook marketplace page. I'll keep that in there just to show we all make mistakes when we're filming. But these are the things that you can do to promote your business. And like I said, learning a trade, plumbing, electric, HVAC, water damage restoration. These are fields that I don't feel AI can replace you. So I think these are good things to put your energy into learning. And by your 4th, 5th year, you could hire a guy or two. If you want to sell this type of a company for a large amount of profit, what you do, you hire a couple people, you scale the business, meaning you get, enough work. And what you can then do is sell this type of a business to a private equity firm. These are large firms that have usually a group of investors that will buy out companies, and they'll pay you, depending on the firm, they'll pay you, a 5, 6 time, 7 time evaluation based on sales. So if I'm doing $1 million a year in sales, and if I'm doing my numbers correctly, I have everything organized through my booking software, I can show, that everything was organized, I might get a $4 to $6 million evaluation based upon those numbers. Again, every company is going to be different, but there are many private equity firms that will buy out these smaller companies, so they eliminate competition and they take on the client database. Or guess what? You can stay small. You can stay with 2 guys and make a great amount of money with just 2 technicians. So many of us think, you have to have all these employees and all this business to make a lot of money. And the reality is you don't. You could even just do it yourself. If you're a single technician and you're doing 2 decent calls a day at, let's say you're making $200 a day per call, and you're making $400 a day minus your gas expenses, let's say you're taking home $300 a day, and you work 5 days a week at that, you're making $1,500 a week, depending on the state you're in. That's more than enough money to survive. So many of us in business think, you need to be generating millions and all this stuff, but it kind of becomes a trap, because just because you generate millions doesn't mean that's all your profit. And I'll give you a great example. At one point, I had about 8 to 10 plumbers under me, and we were doing large amounts of sales. But that wasn't necessarily translated into more profit for me, because that meant I had more people to keep busy. I had more marketing to keep putting money into. I had more expenses in just overall things that needed to be done. I needed more people to help out with answering calls. There was all these extra expenses that I ended up having. So just because you have lots of income coming in doesn't necessarily translate into being profit. Someone with 2 technicians might make more profit than me with 10 because their overhead is lower. They don't have to spend thousands of dollars a month in marketing. Maybe they've got a couple good leads a day for each guy and they're good with that. So you don't always have to go this route of generating huge amounts of income to make profit. It's such a deception. When people say, I generate, $5 million a year, that doesn't really mean anything, because $5 million a year, well, what's your profit on the $5 million? 10%. So if you're making $500,000 a year minus your tax, maybe you're walking away $400,000, which is still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, that's crazy money. But for the amount of work and time you're putting in, is it necessarily worth it? And that's what you have to think about too in business. Is it worth your time? So many people fall into I want to make millions, not realizing how much of your time you sacrifice for that. And time is the commodity you're not going to get back. So this idea of I want to make millions, it's kind of a flawed concept, because what you need to do is do the math on what is a comfortable life for you. Sit down, do the math on what you need a year to make, and then figure out the multiple that you're going to need to make in order for you to live comfortably. You don't have to have $10 million a year to live comfortably. There's people who make $50,000 a year who live more comfortably than somebody who's making $5 million a year, because maybe that person who makes 50 doesn't have all this overhead, all this expense, all this added in stress. Now, if you want to go that route, I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I'm saying is just realize there comes a very high cost to doing business on a very elite level, and very few millionaires are going to talk about what they often lose in order to achieve that. Everyone talks about high financial freedom, all these things, but there's a lot you lose in the process of going down that route. So be very cautious. It's a trap that never ends. So again, to take it back, I would learn something in the trades: plumbing, electric, HVAC. If you go work for someone, learn. If you already have the skills, get yourself set up on Google, get yourself set up on Facebook, get yourself set up on Yelp, get yourself set up on Nextdoor, whatever platforms are there, and offer customers incentives if they're going to do reviews for your business. For example, if I'm doing a job for $100, I can offer maybe my customer a $15 discount if they would leave a review, if they're genuinely happy with the work, because that review is worth more than the $15 I'm giving up. Especially on platforms like Google, you would know the more reviews you get, the better your business is going to do. Another thing I would do is make sure you take lots of really good pictures of your jobs. It's not hard to, most of us have a smartphone, take a couple before and afters and place them on your website. People love to see what a product looked like before you touched it and what it looks like after you finished it. So before and afters are a great way as well to show customers what you're capable of doing. If I had one of these types of businesses, plumbing, electric, HVAC, what I would do is I would also market with other companies that were similar. For example, a couple years ago, when I was helping manage a plumbing company, my mom's plumber, a great guy, he focused heavily on router work. That was his thing. I didn't always have the ability to do these bigger router jobs because of the machinery, etc. So I would give him, if I got a call, I would try to give him those calls for router work. And he would give me water heater calls. So even though we were in the same industry, we were still able to find our niches within it and help each other out. So he wasn't competition. He was an add-on. He would give me those water heater calls, and I could give him those router calls, those big hydrojetting jobs that maybe I couldn't do. So it was great having someone like that. And so if I've got a plumbing company, I should be reaching out to HVAC companies. I should be reaching out to water damage companies, because I should be able to, electric companies, I should be able to give them leads if I get those types of jobs that are suited for them, and they can refer me leads as well. And let's say somebody gives me a lead for plumbing, and they're an electric company, and I make $5,000. I'm just making an example. Shoot that guy or gal, whoever gave you the lead, a couple $100. It doesn't hurt, because it shows thankfulness. And in addition to that, if you're doing good work and you're giving them, like a little kickback, that is the type of person who's more likely going to call you back if there's other work that needs to be done with future clients. I've never met anyone, very few people I would say, if you give them money, are going to give it back. So if you're giving me a job and I'm making money, why does it hurt if I'm going to give you a small cut of that? Is my way to say thanks, because again, I'm keeping you incentivized to want to keep working with me, but I do need to make sure that I'm doing a good job. I don't want to just be giving people money and I'm doing bad work. So you have to make sure that your work is good and proper. And then there's nothing wrong with giving people a kickback if they're providing you jobs as well. It doesn't hurt. And like I said, there's so many ways to market this, but hey, this is just my advice on business. Please go ahead, like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about those industries. I'd like to see you all in the comments section below. Thank you for your time.